path-breaking design for AGI, Part 7, Representations. Defining intelligence as effective, subjective management of objects means that intelligent systems have to maintain both objective and subjective representations and deal with their abstract cases as well, in a manner suitable for processing. Proper representations are necessary to simplify the design of the execution engine as explained in a previous video. The semantics of perceptions and objects as specified in that design must hold true for all representations, real and abstract. The elements to be managed include perceptions, their states, and state changes as a result of external events, information flow, and responses to the events. Perceptions based on sensory data is easy to record in a keyframe. However, the case of representing abstract entities is not so easy, but necessary in all intelligent systems. Furthermore, representing abstract, subjective experiences goes to the heart of the hard problem of consciousness. The method suggested here addresses this as well. Representing objective elements. Representing real objects is fairly straightforward. It may involve keyframes, to record state and state changes, and could associate with perceptions that it helps control. Representing abstract objects that may be learned is not so easy, however. Take a couple of examples, like perceiving the number 2, and capturing the idea of a triangle. Generalizing invariably leads to circularity, and perhaps the best way to avoid that is by recognizing the fact a real perception negates all other perceptions that could have manifested instead. This inherent duality in representation can be used here. In other words, a set of objects negated by the one represented has to be present as a background. Therefore, the set of possible shapes, along with a simple algorithm to identify the actual instance, may be used to represent all objects in that set. Therefore, triangles can be defined by the set of shapes and an algorithm, and any number can be defined by the set of numbers and an algorithm to specify which. In this objective case, acquiring the set and the algorithm is part of the learning process. Representing subjective elements. The subjective control of objects means communications of state and state changes are essential. We have previously seen that in the proposed AGI design, the communications between ACT and PCT systems will use emotions. The communications are mostly about events and actions affecting states in objective and subjective perceptions. This requires representations for all the relevant states. The state of real perceptions can be easily represented. However, in the case of abstract perceptions, the states, introspectively observable experiences, or qualia, are harder to represent, but essential to the design of AGI. However, we can infer that human intelligence too must have had to address the same problem. It appears that the solution used in humans must be related to the hard problem of consciousness, and this can give us the needed, new insights. The hard problem of consciousness. The importance of the representation of abstract and real states, in both perceptions and in objects to produce intelligent behavior, makes it a key element of the design. Furthermore, the abstract subjective perceptual states are not capturable by sensory inputs. The experiences like containment, possession, belonging, winning, all require to be communicable in an uniform manner. How can this be accomplished? The fact that these abstract representations have to be captured long before the acquisition of linguistic and numeric skills narrows the options considerably. The simplest ways to capture abstract subjective experiences, like recording all the sensory data or the exact emotional and biological states, would not be acceptable because there might not be anything to record that is usable by the objective part. Perhaps, it is time to ask a different question instead. Qualia exist and therefore must solve some problem. What is the problem solved by qualia? Abstract representation. Qualia as the solution to the problem. It is useful to note at this stage that qualia have several useful properties. Feelings they represent are a milder form of emotion, and therefore may be used for prelinguistic communications the same way emotion is used between ACT and PCT. The qualia are not functionally disruptive like emotions. In addition, for communications, its freedom from deceit and ambiguity is a major advantage. Feelings can be generated by the brain by controlling parameters for the heart/respiratory rates, perspiration, endocrine activities, and the digestive and excretory systems. This gives a vast vector space to represent complex states. Controlling the clock speed, the sensory system gains, and control parameters of the actuators can similarly produce feelings in a machine. This inner mechanism of communication serves this crafty function in a manner easily misunderstood. Awareness, feelings, and emotions play critical roles to produce intelligence. Luckily, all these elements can be duplicated in a machine. Therefore, AGI is achievable. Addendum. Though my task of describing the design for AGI is done, it seems strange to leave unsaid the enormous implications of what has been described about consciousness. It is not unusual to view another self within ourselves. What if this was only partly true, and there really were two other selves, one subjective, the other objective? What if we did not know the difference, and either could be answering us? The representations they will handle will have to be vastly different, and have very different learning needs, and very different points of view. Will they not need some common ground for communications? Should that form not be more fundamental than knowledge itself? Can anything less than the elements of consciousness do? Thanks to the eminent thinkers of our time, David Deutsch and Robert Kuhn, my search for a design for artificial general intelligence has brought me to an unexpected destination. Their remarks were instrumental in forcing me to re-examine the possibility of consciousness playing a larger role, after completing my book, Purpose. I hope the ideas discussed will prompt further explorations. Thank you for your interest.